Excellent. An ale for me. And for my officers. In fact, ales for everyone.
10 Backward. With Rick and Will and Gemma.
Oh, yes.
Hello, welcome to another episode of 10 Backwards, the Star Trek discussion podcast from the UK. I'm your host, Rick Everson, and over the magic of the internet are my co-hosts, Rick Palmer.
Hello.
Gemma Turland.
Hello.
And Will Turland.
Hello.
And we are gathering again to talk about Star Trek Picard. We've just had the 7th episode of this series appear on our screens. I have literally just come seconds from watching it. I think you guys have been a day or two now into watching it because I was delayed. But
yeah, I've watched it twice.
Oh man, we're already.
I know you're emotionally compromised at the moment, aren't you, Ricky?
I am so emotionally compromised. And I knew I would be. I knew when we got to this episode, I was gonna have a tough time of it. But no, I think it was totally worth it. I was happy overall with this episode.
Yeah, I loved it. My experience of watching it was, Gemma, you'd gone to bed early.
I had.
I'm going into the cupboard and got myself a few tipples.
An assortment of tipples.
Yeah, made myself some microwave popcorn, and I just thought it was an incredible experience. It was one of my favorite hours of television that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and it was
just an absolute joy.
It was literally an hour, wasn't it?
Yes,
and usually for new Trek, which sort of bounces in its timings around sort of 35 to 50 minutes, but this was 58 minutes something. So a full hour of. Well, I was going to say a full hour of Star Trek action, but this is probably one of the lower on the scale of action for this series so far.
Yeah, definitely a full hour of Star Trek, just characters talking.
Yeah, I think for an episode where we reunite with a couple of key Next Generation characters, having them mainly stand or sit around having a talk is pretty apt.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you could say they had a sort of series of meetings throughout the episode, just like they would do in TNG.
Troy even goes as far as to say, "Let's pretend the dinner table is your ready room."
Yeah,
I like that. And it was a little bit patronising as well.
Pretend that our dinner table is the ready room of the Enterprise.
Oh, Troy was.
Come on, you crazy old
Troy
old
was
man.
Gold all the way through, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gold.
I thought she was brilliant in this episode. Yeah.
Well,
I feel like the episode was probably this long because in other episodes there's probably stuff that you can cut out of an episode that doesn't kind of add to that particular episode, doesn't add to the plot or whatever. But with this one, it was probably just all gold. It was just like there's nothing here that we need to cut out. It's all really good, and and the fans will absolutely love it. So let's just keep it in.
Yeah,
and then well, if we do that, this episode is going to be 2 hours long. Like, oh, we can get rid of some stuff then. All the Narek stuff we don't need. He's just in his ship.
Yeah.
Keep in the Picard stuff with Troy and Riker.
Oh.
Fidget cube or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, he made his bloody Rubik's Cube. I mean. The crux of this episode is basically visiting the Rikers, isn't it? This is where certainly for the long-term fans, but also I think for anyone who's getting to know Picard, this is got incredible importance because well, a kind of interesting thing is that I think a lot of this series, Picard, if you're not familiar with him, can come across as a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
He's not making a great showing of himself. He's essentially kind of got caught up in this little adventure, and he's dragging people in left, right, and centre, and using them. And kind of very much blind to their issues, their troubles, and well, certainly like Raffi is a fantastic case in point. He's very much ignorant of her immense distress. I think.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think that's because he, in the past he was used to having someone like Troy there to remind him of those things?
Yeah.
I wonder.
yeah,
There's a nice moment. I suppose we're getting a bit too much into it, but there's a nice moment where Riker calls him on his arrogance. Actually, in this episode,
yeah,
which I really like.
Yeah.
yes.
But should we?
I mean, he's used to managing with a management team, isn't he? So maybe they did more of the touchy-feely personnel stuff.
Yeah.
And he did the big decisions.
He made the cold, hard decisions in the meetings.
Yeah, that's what the first office is for, isn't it? I think they go into that in different series of Trek, that the first office is there to do a lot of the day-to-day running of the starship, all the personnel and things like that, and keeping that ticking over. Yeah, whereas the captain's the sort of the figurehead. He's
the decision man.
Yeah.
And the first officer, I think they've said probably on Next Gen, or definitely one of those related series, something along the lines of the first officer is the bridge between the crew and the captain. He's that link between them. So, but also, I mean, Troy obviously always filled a definite function in that aspect as well. So it was nice. Yeah. It was nice actually to see her call Picard out on his nonsense.
Oh, that was beautiful. I loved that scene.
Yeah, because she was like, when she's just like, this isn't appropriate for a ship's counselor to say, but you had that coming.
This isn't something a ship's counselor is supposed to say, but you had it coming.
Easy there, Imzadi.
Do you have any idea what that young woman's been through?
Yeah, and those two were all huffy about her reaction to him. And as the audience, you kind of, I personally was thinking, hang on, you don't have the right to speak to her like that. Of course she's going to react, and then Troy says it.
Yeah,
which is beautiful.
Yeah. And
should we, before we get too deeply into
what happens halfway through?
Yeah, should we roll it right back to because I think we open with a really important scene. It's another flashback, which is in keeping with what we've had in the other episodes of Picard, but it's a flashback to 3 weeks ago, where Dr. Jurati, we revisit a scene from this very series, and we find out what happened with her and Commodore O.
Yes,
we do.
And
that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And we kind of find out why she's wearing sunglasses. It's a tool for the for making a beautiful shot of Jurati's face reflected in the sunglasses.
Yeah,
so speaks to her. That's why.
Yeah.
For a species that has given up emotion, Vulcans do appreciate good dramatic framing.
They do indeed.
And so, O does a Vulcan mind melt with Jurati, and kind of basically sort of explains to her what her point of view is, and we see some really brief shots of some epic destruction, and basically what Commodore O says is going to be the consequences of having synths around, and like Jurati is pretty shaken up by that. She throws up, and not for the only time in this episode.
This didn't please you, did it?
No, I was like, God, do we really need to see her throwing up again? It's like, come on, she threw up at the beginning of the episode. She throws up again later. It's like, it's killing my crush. Then there's a bit where she's all foaming at the mouth.
It's a very delicate crush.
Like, it's fragile at the moment because, initially I was way into her, and then like she did a murder, and I was like, no, okay, no, I'm still into her. And then she was sick twice. Like, okay, you know what? I'm not sure.
As I recall, you first had to go off her when you found out that she'd slept with Rios.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Honestly, Matt, you should be encouraged by that because clearly she's into beardy dudes.
That's true. But
who can do keepy uppies though? How many keepy uppies can you do, Will?
I don't think I can even do one keepy uppie. I think I would miss the ball on the first shot, and she'd be like, "Wow, that's the worst keepy uppy attempt I've seen."
More of a droppy missy.
Yes. And then she'd be like,
I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'm not going to sleep with you. I'll have to hang out with a cool, sexy pilot. Like, oh, man.
She might just throw up on you first.
Yeah, that's right. And then murder me. Oh, this is the worst first date ever.
But Commodore O, she frightens Jurati into helping her, right? Like that mind meld is just there to induce fear. It's to scare Jurati into helping Commodore O. I'm
particularly disturbed by this because we know from other series that mind melds can be used to twist people's perceptions and to force them to do stuff they don't want to.
Yeah, and that mind melds like that can have a deleterious effect on the recipient if So yeah.
I think my interpretation of this scene was that I think Commodore O fully believes that synths are a danger and a threat, and I think maybe that's what she was. It was that sort of strong belief that she was able to get across in the mind meld, and whether that what she showed Jurati was what that was actually sort of based on, I don't know. But I guess it was.
She fully believed that. Well, I mean, why else would she? Well, why should she be pursuing the course of action she is?
Yeah,
and that was interesting. Yeah. That was echoed later on in a conversation with Oji. Yes.
Yeah.
When he tried to convince her that he was not lying, and she stated that yes, she can tell that he believes he's telling the truth, but that's not the truth. That's your belief.
I mean, I suppose that what O was showing Dr. Jurati could be. I mean, it could be events from the past. I mean, we know that the Romulans' dislike of synths goes back a long way, and Vulcans and Romulans have a shared ancestry. And so it's, I mean, maybe it's events from the past that we just, I mean, because you can't. I don't know. I mean, the glimpses we got were pretty brief, so I wasn't able to see if it was a particular planet that was being attacked or a particular city. Yeah. I mean, I imagine other people have kind of gone into that scene and broken it down into its intimate details. So it could be there could be hints as to where that is, and I suppose if it's Earth, then that's a prediction of the future. Whereas if it's not Earth, that could be somewhere else, couldn't it? I suppose it could be.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose because they talk about a prophecy, but I guess is the and Soji as the destroyer, and this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean their intense fear and dislike of synths does seem to come from the past. So
it does, but surely showing someone a vision of the future would be more effective than showing them something from the past.
Yeah, but what if you didn't have a vision of the future? So you were like, well, I'll cobble it together. I'll do a montage of stuff from the past. Put some workout music to it, and that'll fuck Jurati up. She'll be sick. And then she was. I reckon that's it.
Yeah. And then so Jurati chewed and swallowed the tracking device.
Yes, yeah.
I love tracking device flavour of chewing gum.
Ooh.
Fresh mint, isn't it? It's blue. So I mean, you get a tracking device and minty fresh breath.
It looked like it cleared out the sinuses there.
Yeah.
She needed it because she'd been sick, so she didn't need.
That's what it was. It wasn't a tracking device. It was just take this.
Your breath stinks.
Yeah. It's either this one or it goes up the butt. So, oh.
When she held it out, I thought, is that just like a little device just to wear it? What's she put in her mouth for?
That would have been a great scene.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
No, she didn't.
That's
Yeah,
really
it was not-
expensive.
It was take this. It wasn't consume this.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just if you give anything, don't give anything to Girardi.
Just eat it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, just like I saw.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's why I reacted like that. I'm just used to seeing my kids put stuff in their mouth they're not supposed to. So my gut instinct was, "Oh, don't put it in your mouth." Oh no, she actually wants you to. Okay.
Yeah.
But I just thought she had to like pin it inside her top or something. When you're given a history of throwing up, probably not a good idea to let her eat it.
Yeah. That's it. But yeah, then we go straight into like a really sort of fast-paced pre-credit sequence where back on the ship and it's in a tractor beam, and then they can't get out, and then we're back on the cube, and all the XBs get murdered by the sexy Romulan lady.
Yeah.
And that's pretty devastating. But we don't really have time to sort of process that, because then we're thrown. Old what's his name shoots off in a sort of fighter ship.
Narek,
yes. And then they're off. They're released from the tractor beam. They're being tracked, and they're well away. And it's like bam, and we haven't even seen Picard yet.
No.
It's one of the it's probably like the most sort of high energy, fast paced openings that we've had in Picard so far, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree there.
Yeah.
And it's quite a fun contrast, considering that a lot of the episode takes place on Nepenthe and is a lot slower paced.
Yes, yeah.
So every so often we'll just flash off to the drama on the La Sirena or the happenings on the cube. And it's like, a sudden jarring action, fast paced contrast there.
I was going to say, as we've talked about in the earlier part of this recording, because the bulk of this episode is Picard and Sojay show up on a planet and then talk to Riker and Troy for about an hour.
Yeah,
and that's it. But it's way more wonderful than that sounds.
Oh God, yeah.
I was worried about the scenes in the cube, that those early scenes with Hugh and the XBs, because I was like, and not to spoil it, but I was worried that Hugh was going to die in that scene. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
No, I don't want it to happen. I like Hugh. We've only just got him back, and then he didn't die. I was like, phew. Elnor saved him, and they're gonna do something to take back the cube from the Romulans. Like, yes, that's so cool. And then later on, things happen, and I was sad again.
Yeah.
So,
I had a similar kind of a similar feeling.
Yeah, that's a big.
He was gone in blink of an eye.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And that was sad because he was it was great to see him back. He's been a real standout in this series. I thought he's been great.
I was really excited that he was going to be a longer
character.
So I was saying to Will, Will, I'm really glad that he's going to be in it, because obviously he's going to be in it for a bit more now because Elnor's there and they're going to take back the cube, and I'm really, and then
Yeah, I was watching it for the second time and I was like, I can't say what's going to happen.
Yes, Gemma.
He's going to die. I didn't say that.
No.
But so we're on a planet. It's pretty sort of idyllic, and Picard meets like a wild lady of the woods.
Yeah.
It's actually a young girl, and she's not really a threat.
And that was my first emotional bit when he called her Kestra.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, yes, yeah. I hadn't picked up on that until after the fact, but sorry, Rick, go ahead and explain who Kestra is.
So we find out in a season 7 episode of Next Generation that Lwaxana Troy had a daughter before Deanna that was called Kestra, but she died when Deanna was essentially still a baby, and Lwaxana basically then removed all trace of her existence, so Deanna wasn't even aware of her. And it was only when the mental blocks Lwaxana had put around her mind to forget and repress the memories of Kestra broke down that it all came out. But yeah, it was like a really sort of, it was a bit of a deep cut, but a really touching little tribute and nod, I thought, to include that.
Yeah.
So,
definitely, and I think it felt it didn't feel like it was kind of a reference too far. It felt entirely fitting that's what Deanna would want her daughter to be called.
It's completely believable they do that, and they didn't make a big thing of explaining it out. It's just there.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, that's her name. If you are familiar, you get it, but then that's it. You don't need to dwell on it. You don't need to over-explain it or anything. So it was...
Yeah, that's it. You didn't need a scene where Picard was like, "Oh, Kestra, that name is familiar."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. Well, you must have named her after, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get that kind of, so they come across a really nice house. It's like a big old sort of log cabin and a log mansion. And out of that house walks Deanna Troy.
Yeah.
And we see her for the first time since. So were her appearances in Voyager post Nemesis or pre Nemesis?
Nemesis showed us Admiral Janeway, didn't it?
Of course, yes, of course. Yeah, okay.
So her only post Nemesis appearance is in the Enterprise finale.
These are the Voyages.
But chronologically, that was season 7 of Next Gen, because it was within the Pegasus.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Just to get a bit timey-wimey, but
it was lovely to see, though, wasn't it? I mean, it's just. I mean, it was just brilliant. I don't know. It works. I mean, like you were saying, Rick, for someone who's uninitiated with TNG, it's still a scene that works. But for people who are initiated, it's just lovely, isn't it? It's a chance to see those characters meeting up again, and I think a lot of what works with this episode and those characters is that the people playing the characters are friends too, and it felt like. I mean, I imagine that those people in the real world probably meet up more often than their characters do. But it still felt like it was that sort of people, friends meeting up again and being friends and catching up and and having that and kind of re-energizing that relationship with each other. And I think a lot of that real energy shone through in this episode. It just felt really genuine, like genuine caring people who genuinely care for each other, reuniting.
I'm fine. I'm fine, really. And I am very, very glad to see your face.
There's definitely a natural warmth to those performances and those scenes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I did find myself thinking objectively, if I kind of forget that I'm a Star Trek fan for a while, this episode feels problematic in that we sort of take a bit of a time out and spend absolutely ages with two characters who aren't really a part of this story, and it is a bit of an indulgence, but I can't look at it objectively because subjectively I just think every minute that we had on screen with Riker and Troy and Picard was absolute gold, and I feel like it was absolutely the right decision to not have them just show up as a cameo, but actually have a whole episode where we catch up with them and we find out what's been happening since we last saw them on screen. What are their lives like? And I love how that all played out, and I don't know how I would feel about it if I wasn't a big TNG fan. But I loved it.
I think I loved it, and I agree with you entirely. But I think the only problem I have with this episode is that some pretty big things happened in storyline C that just got kind of swept to the side. The death of Hugh, which was powerful and it's impactful and it's kind of blink and he's gone. Which is always impactful, but I think that storyline deserved a bit more than it got.
It did feel like there could have been like a couple, 2 or 3 scenes on the cube that got cut
because
for time.
You had this huge emotional coming together of him and Picard, and it was a big moment, and then he's just kind of killed.
Yeah.
In the smallest storyline in the next episode, and I just that was a bit unbalanced, I think.
Yeah. I'd agree that wasn't my favorite part of the episode.
It kind of felt like Hugh was killed to just further Elnor's story a little bit. I kind of feel that Hugh's got a bit of a legacy of his own going on. He's a very regardless of the fact he's only been in 2 episodes of Next Gen previous to this series, he's a big deal. He's a very loved character, and I kind of think there's a lot on him, and just I don't know. I'm not entirely. It doesn't sit entirely right with me like you guys. It's like it's not the way I would have wanted you to go.
I'm interested to see how they'll reintroduce that plot point of the Romulans who were assimilated, and that's why that cube broke down. Because that seemed a plot point that was pretty centered on the cube, and I'm guessing that clearly we're still going to have. I mean, Elnor's still on that cube, but I'd be interesting to see. I mean, maybe that's what they're going to do. Like Elnor will stay on that cube for a little while, and that element will be furthered through his experiences there. But I am wondering how they're going to sort of return to that plot point, because it seemed pretty significant. It seemed like a link to Soji's origins and why she is feared.
And why they have such a fear of synth in the first place. There's something fun, and so that seems to have sort of disappeared for a while, but hopefully, as you say, it'll come back as they stay on the cube.
Yeah, the last we saw of Elnor in this plot line, we saw that he picked up a device and pressed it, and neither me nor Gemma knew what that was. Even though I'd seen it twice, I still didn't know what that was.
And then I had an epiphany.
Yeah.
Also, Rick Palmer knew.
It said Fenris on it, like the Fenris Rangers.
Yeah, no, we didn't see that.
We didn't read it. We were like, my brain doesn't read the words.
He's got a thing. He's pressed the thing.
He's pressed the thing. What's that thing?
Well, I was too busy thinking, what's that doing there? Isn't that convenient that that's
Who's
there?
that guy?
Who's
What is
that
this?
guy? No, but like, why? That was convenient, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
why did that get left to that particular spot?
But yeah, if we'd have...
Maybe she just like leaves them around the place.
Yeah. She's just really forgetful. But yeah, if we'd have been on the ball and read the word Fenris, then we would have gone, okay, so maybe Seven's going to be back. She's going to come back and save the day. She's so cool. But we didn't. Yeah, we didn't have that reaction in the episode because we didn't read the word.
We didn't have our reading brains on.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, so going back to Riker and Troy, as we were saying before you joined the podcast, Rick, but both me and Rick Palmer had exactly the same reaction after watching this episode, which was, I really, really need to go out in the garden and build a pizza oven. Because a lot of this episode felt like it was pizza oven porn. I just like, oh man, I need a pizza oven so badly. They're amazing. There's fire in there. They cook pizza.
There were some beautiful shots from the interior of it. You see the
God, yeah.
and clothes, and it was good.
Yeah.
Completely unknowing of the content of this episode, I did happen to make pizzas from scratch tonight. Not with pizza oven, sadly, but yeah, still. I felt that this was a moment where me and Riker, I could relate to the character in a whole new way. Because we both make pizzas.
Did you have tomato and basil on your pizza?
You mean basil?
I made demon basil.
Basil.
Was it space basil or terrestrial basil?
And bunny corn sausage, whatever that is.
Don't forget to take the poison sac out.
Pizza with tomato basil and non-venomous bunny corn sausage.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
I don't have to have any on my slice of that, because why don't we have something that isn't potentially poison?
Yeah.
Like the tomato and basil is fine. More of the space basil, please.
Yeah, I'll have a veggie pizza, please. Mr. Riker.
Yeah.
I did wonder if it bothers Marina Sirtis having to say tomato.
Yeah.
Because she would normally say tomato.
She would.
Let's call the whole thing off.
You just beat me
too
to
slow.
it. Damn you, Palmer. Your speedy thinking and saying of things. There was some really nice storytelling and scenes in this episode. I thought I really liked the story about Riker and Troy's family that they had, and how it's gradually sort of unravelled to us that there was a tragedy in the past and they lost their son Thad.
Thad. Yeah.
To a silicon based virus, which you're not sure about.
I'm not sure about how silicon based virus would affect carbon based life form, but I'm not a scientician.
That's right.
So I don't know.
But I thought there was some great. There was some really nice kind of subtlety in the writing of those scenes. Like they didn't just come right out and go and have Picard go, hey, wait a minute, where's your other son? Oh yeah, he died of that virus, didn't he? Sorry. And he's like, oh, you must be sad about that. We are sad. That is what we are like now. It was way more subtle than that. It's better.
Goodness, you didn't write it.
Yeah. But I thought there was some great. There was a really brilliant scene with Picard and Troy, and I thought Marina Sirtis just nailed that scene. There's some great acting.
Oh, in the bedroom.
I love that scene. It was great where Picard talks about the first time that he met their son Thad, but then it turns out it wasn't, because they have a picture of Picard with Thad as a baby, and I just love that. I love that sort of idea. That felt like a really genuine moment, and all that stuff was great. And I think it works because I suppose Picard turns up with a young woman, and Picard's sort of like a father figure, or he has to be. He's trying to be, and he's not doing a great job. And he's meeting people who have raised children, and they're good people for him to meet at this point in this story. They're able to kind of help him at this point in his mission with Soji, and to be better with her, and to with this mission that he set himself to,
and understand that it's not just a list of tasks he's having to do. He's having to deal with a traumatized person, a traumatized person who is not who who isn't going to do as she's told, who doesn't believe anything he says, who's been tortured
and he needs to try and think about things from her perspective, and he hasn't really been doing that. And you could argue, it's quite convenient that at this point in the story, the one person that Picard happens to run into is the person he kind of really needs to help him sort of understand Sage and stuff. But at the same time, I thought it was great that we have a story with Troy and Riker, and Troy is a really essential part of the story. It isn't necessarily something that always happened even in TNG.
No, she I would say she
has way more to do than Riker in this episode.
She was
fantastic. And I thought she had there was some real meat to her story, and she really went for it in terms of acting and nailed it. I thought she was great.
It was kind of convenient that trajector device deposited them within walking distance of Troy and Riker.
That did bother me.
I have
a
issues with the trajector device. Trajector advice. Did he put the coordinates into the machine, or did he just say, "We're going to so and so," and it sent them there?
He said, Hugh did the programming.
Yes, I know, but at what point did he say, "Hugh, okay, I want to go here"?
You're right. He didn't say that.
No. He found a planet, and Hugh found the planet, and so it's like literally, he was very fortunate that he happened to dump them within walking distance of the exact what he wanted to go see.
Because he never communicated to Hugh that he knew anyone on that planet or why he wanted to go to that planet.
What part of the planet he wanted to go to.
Really lucky, wasn't it?
Well, just because Picard has been like in a sulk in his vineyard since he's retired, doesn't mean that maybe like the Rikers haven't been keeping up contact with other people. Hugh and the Rikers might be in touch a lot. You might know exactly where their house is.
Yeah.
In my head canon,
he definitely wants to go see Riker. So.
In my headcanon, Hugh and Picard do have a little bit of a connection because of their old Borg affiliation. So maybe Hugh just had a bit of intuition about where Picard wanted to go on the planet, and he just popped that into the. Okay.
Reaching.
Okay.
Oh, another thing I really liked how well defended the Rikers' houses.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
That was really cool.
Riker's like, Alexa, raise shields. Alexa, raise anti-cloaking.
Shields up. Perimeter scans to max.
We've had a little trouble around here lately with the Xinti. Best to run anti-cloaking scans to Romulans. Mm-hmm.
Initiate anti-cloaking scans.
I think that was absolute fan service. Just to have Riker issuing commands again. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant, but it's like why not? And also I guess this isn't a Federation world. They mentioned that they've had problems with some aliens.
Yeah,
well, it's just cool.
I thought Riker was being a bit jocular when he first said raise shields and everything, and then some shields went up. It's like, oh, he actually has shields. Also, the alien race images of the Kzinti.
Who are they, Rick?
From the animated series.
Oh, okay. What do they look? I don't.
They look like visible cat people.
Oh, cool. Okay.
At first, I thought you said Xindi. And I was like, what the what? Oh, that's a cool link to Enterprise, but it wasn't Xindi. So, whoops.
Kzinti, which is another deep cut.
I think if they're cat people, I guess maybe they've had a problem with the Kzinti taking a dump in their lawn.
Peeing on Fatal.
Shoo, Kzinti.
Maybe Riker wakes up in the morning.
Spraying them with a water pistol. Yeah, hello, Kzinti.
Riker gets up in the morning and he puts his slippers on. There's a bloody mouse in here again. Yuck. Ray Shields. Alexa Ray Shields. I've had enough of these cat dickheads.
These cat, I remember that, or they've invited a Kzinti couple round for dinner, and there's just a point where one of them goes, like, coughs up a hairball. Like,
Right, it's like, oh, that was all the basil.
Yeah, all the space basil and bunny corn sausage. Anyway, let's put on some jazz.
We've painted a beautiful picture of the Riker's domestic life now.
I don't want to besmirch the dead in this series, but because they talk about Thad being very imaginative and he created languages and stuff, and that's all very cool. But I would say that that Kestra is very highly influenced by Princess Mononoke. So I mean, and to be fair, well done for Thad for creating that, because the Wild Women of the Woods, that's his own invention, and it's like an archetype. So I'm not saying he's not creative, but I did get strong Princess Mononoke vibes from Kestra.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's cool. I mean, I love Princess Mononoke. It's brilliant.
Thad probably had the DVDs, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's on Netflix now, so he probably had Netflix.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't a gripe or anything. I just noticed that similarity, especially with like the kind of the red marks on the cheeks and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's a cool look. So.
It is a cool look. I liked her as a character. I thought she made an impression.
She did.
She was like bordering on.
She was borderline.
A bit irritating. But she was like a bit precocious and quite confident.
Leaning on the precocious.
But I liked her relationship with Soji. I thought it was good that we spent time with those two characters, and Soji got to sort of talk to someone about being an android and stuff. Like all of that stuff was good. I thought. I liked it.
Yeah.
As we did mention Thad, I'm just going to point out another deep cut. You remember the Voyager episode Death Wish, where Q brings Riker up to help him that hearing with the Q who wants to die.
Oh yeah.
The reason he brought Riker in is, and they show a picture that the Riker wouldn't exist because this other Q helped Riker's Civil War ancestor, Colonel Thaddeus Riker.
Oh my God, that's the deepest cut I've ever heard of.
I know, and it was bothering me with the Thad thing. I was thinking, Thad, is that like a jazz guy? Was there a jazz guy called Thad? And it took a while, but before I hit on it, I was like, flipping out.
There probably was, Rick. I bet there was someone called Screaming Thad Johnson.
Yeah.
Thelonious. Was there a jazz? Was Thelonious monk?
Yeah.
Not Thelonious monk. Damn it.
But sticking with Thad, I liked the exploration of what it would be like to be a child brought up on starships.
Yeah.
And
he had a skull in his bedroom. That was a big tick for me as well.
I like the stuff around. He was fascinated with the idea of a homeworld because he was born on a starship, and that was just some really nice kind of world building. And I think you got a sense of their family and of Thad as a character without really having a whole lot of dialogue around that, or without even seeing him.
Yeah, that felt really nice. Genuine as well. That felt just a really nice insight into what it must be like, because I mean, children are pretty inquisitive, aren't they? And they ask a lot. They ask a lot of questions of their parents about why things are why they are the way they are, and things like that. And that was just a nice element to the story, wasn't it? And that character, you got a real sense of, considering he's dead, we don't see him. You get a real sense of that character. I thought it was great. And sad.
Yeah. I wonder if the writers kind of came up with this idea of Picard coming across Troy and Riker, and they had like a really cool house and a pizza oven, and and it was really nice, and the climate was great, and they just thought it's a bit too twee. Do you know what we need? One of the kids died. That'll take the edge.
You can't put that on a pizza.
But I think that, but if that was their motivation, I think it was the right decision because it made it a much more interesting story, and I much preferred finding. I really liked sort of getting that gradual back history of Troy and Riker, and if nothing had, nothing had gone on in their lives, and they'd just spent the last 20 years eating pizza and hanging out in their lovely wood house, I just would have been like, why do we need to know this?
Another thing as well, I thought was that in TNG, I mean, these characters, Picard included, they often were in very dangerous situations, and to the point where we thought, they might die, but they were always okay, and they had a sense of invincibility, I think, in TNG. Whereas now they're vulnerable. We've seen they've experienced loss and the effects that can have on their lives. I mean, especially Picard and I think meeting Troy and Riker again after almost 20 years, it's something that kind of shows that, doesn't it, that they're characters that have experienced loss and they're not superheroes, which I think in TNG it wasn't quite like that, but they were they were adventurers, and they there was more of a sense of them being invulnerable, but in this series that's not the case. I don't think.
Well, that sort of conversation Troy and Picard have as well. Picard expresses regret that he might potentially have brought danger down on them, and Troy concedes, if anything happened to Kestra after what happened to Thad, there's that.
It's just that if something were to happen to Kestra...
Of course. Deanna, I understand.
I'm not as brave as I used to be, Jean-Luc.
Then you're getting wiser.
And I think it's good that I think it's good that Picard mentions that, because in a couple of episodes earlier, he kind of explains why he hasn't contacted his former crew, because he doesn't want to do that. So, I mean, at least he's addressing that to him.
I was just going to say what you were saying, Rick, ties into a conversation they have near the end when Picard is talking about his new crew being quite motley.
Yes.
And he says, and they have a lot less. They seem to have a lot more baggage than you guys ever did.
Yeah.
Which I think is right. The TNG crew didn't sort of have a whole lot of baggage actually, and whereas now, Troy and Riker kind of do have a bit of baggage.
Yeah.
When TNG starts, Riker and Troy are like, oh, they used to date and now they haven't, and that's literally the entirety of the character. But actually, what you were saying, Rick, about the sense of invulnerability that they carried through, reminded me of a conversation that they had on DS9. Miles and Worf were talking about the best of both worlds, and Worf was like, I never doubted the outcome. We were like warriors from the old tales. And so, I kind of see that. They did have that whole sense of invulnerability. Even Worf goes around thinking like he was a fabled warrior in that movie.
He's always saying, today is a good day to die. He doesn't really think he is going to die. That's the kind of bullshit you say when you think you're invulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he was one of the main cast, so he knew he was pretty safe. They'd already killed the chief security,
exactly,
so he was like, well, they're not going to kill another chief of security. I'm going to be fine. Today is a good day to die. They won't kill me.
I just signed a contract for season 4.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Riker in this episode?
It's a great pizza man.
Yeah,
he
was like, to me, he was like smiley, big fun Riker. I think Troy had a lot of the more of the meat of the story and the sort of sadder aspects of their lives, and Riker was more like, I'm a cooking a pizza.
I mean, I guess there is a point where he talks to Picard about why they came to Nepenthe because it has a certain quality. Like its soils have a regenerative quality. The planet itself seems to. So
like
there's a bit of that,
planet.
and you get a sense of there's a bit of sadness there when Riker talks about that. But mostly it's just he's a friend, isn't he? He's a good friend to Picard. Is what Picard probably needs right now. Is a friend, just a
Well, he's that right hand that Picard he always was for Picard. You know, even if it's only for a few moments. He's because the way he was able to just discern the situation so quickly.
That was a great scene where he says you don't have to tell me anything, but he judges what's going on. I loved that. That was brilliant.
I recognize that head tilt anywhere. Kid's got data in her DNA. And that's why you're here. How am I doing? Not bad. For a pizza chef.
And he picked up on that head tilt.
Yeah. Has Soji ever done that head tilt before that?
Yes. Yeah. If you go back to the sock skating scene, when Narek leads her down towards the sock skating corridor, she does it there. Because I noticed it then. I thought, oh, that's that little head tilt like Data always used to do at a curious moment.
Oh, that is so Riker, Rick.
Oh, you made his day.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I mean, Rick, you're a big Riker fan, aren't you? So you must have been. I bet you couldn't wait to see Riker show up in this show.
Oh, it was. I mean, just having seen it in the trailers sent chills down me and brought tears to my eyes, and so I was just a bit of a wreck when they had Riker show up. It's like. And then, see him reunite with Picard. It was all it was a very emotional episode for me.
I thought there's a really lovely scene near the end where Riker and Picard just sit out and they're sat on a sort of a jetty overlooking a lake, and it slightly undermined the emotion to me because it's really clear in that scene how massive Jonathan Frakes is, and Picard looked like he was his kid. I was a bit hung up thinking about that, but actually it was like it was a really lovely emotional scene, and again, like we've said before, they just felt like genuine friends hanging out, and it was really nice.
I think if you were to watch like All Good Things and see that end scene where Picard sits and joins up with the poker game, and he sort of. It's like he has a new relationship starting with his crew from that moment, and then you see this. I think there's a clear payoff in the way he can, after 7 years working with them, he can suddenly allow himself to become emotionally close to them.
Yeah,
so that was a real.
Moment.
I also, and I may be pinning lots on this, but I'm putting a lot of significance on Riker's line that he's still on active reserve with Starfleet.
Oh God, yeah. As soon as he said that, and I think he says something like, that it would need to be something really important to bring him back.
Do you ever think about shipping out again?
Well, I am still on active reserve, but it would have to be a very good reason.
And immediately I was like, the final episode. Everything's going against them. There's like a big fleet of Romulan ships, and then suddenly the Enterprise shows up, and there's Riker on the bridge.
And what does he say?
He says, "Surprise, motherfuckers!"
He's like, "Hey, you want a bunny corn sausage with your pizza?"
I got your space basil right here in a photon tube. Actually, he's commanding 2 starships.
He's just
the equivalent
riding
of wielding
them
2.
with
Yes, that's exactly what he's doing. Yes, because he is really big, so he could do that, and it would look not ridiculous. But yes, that line did make me think. Oh, it'd be amazing if he does show up again. Let's see.
There is, and I'm probably but it's like when Seven gave that little transmitter calling card thing to Picard. You kind of like you want to take that line. You just can't see. Is there a chance I'm going to see Riker in uniform on the bridge of a ship again before this series is out? And I
clean up on aisle 4.
Yeah, that would be an immense moment for me.
Yeah. I guess we've talked a lot about Troy and Riker. We have and about Hugh and the Borg cube, but there's a B story that we haven't talked about too much, where Jurati throws up again.
Yay!
And because she's having Narek is chasing them down. He's tracking her, isn't he? Using her tracking device that she wasn't meant to eat.
Like a chewing gum.
Yeah, they can't work out how he's tracking them.
Yeah.
And,
what's the pilot guy called again? Rios. He's a bit stupid in this episode.
Stupid. I don't mind that he thinks it's Raffi. I think that's quite nice, especially at their conversation where he's just about to tell Raffi that he thinks it's her, and she's like, "What? You're not going to shoot me out an airlock, are you?"
Yeah, and he doesn't get to finish his sentence, does he?
But there is a bit when Jurati is basically saying, "No, it's not Raffi."
Yeah, wink,
wink.
And he's like, he's like, well,
anyway,
I don't know who else it could be. I'm going to go talk to my crazy holograms.
Yeah.
Like, oh, come on, man. Meant to be the captain.
And also, Raffi is super creepy in this episode.
Oh, you were a bit creeped out by her whole
Planet
Raffi thing.
Chocolate?
That's probably overdoing it.
No such thing on Planet Raffi.
That was a little bit, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if it was just the performance.
I think it was the performance and the script.
Yeah.
When you're referring to being with you as Planet You, that's just creepy. It's not her fault. It's the script.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? Actually, it's perfectly acceptable on Planet Rick.
Oh man,
a lot of things are acceptable on Planet Rick.
Planet Rick E.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much an anything goes kind of place.
Ah, geez, I've never had permission to beam down there, and I've just always lost the paperwork for some reason. So we can't go there. I'm sorry.
Oh,
not.
See, I was wondering through these scenes when Jurati had her little meltdown on the bridge. It's like, are these guys now suspicious of her, and is that why Raffi's doing this whole like nice and come with Auntie Raffi and get some cake kind of thing?
Apparently not.
But and then when she's in sickbay, and Rios goes and talks to her and says, "I'm beginning to wonder if Raffi's a." Is that because he actually thinks it's Jurati and he's trying to he's trying to like double bluff her? And then she says, "No, it's me," and he still doesn't believe that.
Yeah. I think it's
no, he's actually.
It's because they basically see her as a non-entity, don't they? I mean, obviously, Rios, finds her attractive, but that's kind of that's as far as it goes, really. I think they don't.
Yeah.
So that's why she flies under the radar, because.
Yeah, they're so world weary and jaded, and she's the naive innocent.
Yeah,
is their perception.
I thought again in this episode, is it Alison Pill? Is that the actress's name who plays Jurati? I thought she put in a great performance. Actually, I thought when the scenes towards the end where she's really, she's clearly in a bad way, and she takes the decision to take it seems like she's taking like a suicide option.
She's poisoning herself to mask the tracking signal, right?
Yeah.
But also it's probably fatal. Like she basically she irradiates herself, doesn't she?
Yeah.
When she stood up, I was thinking, oh, she's going to literally try and physically remove the tracker. This is going to get messy because she chewed it up, and then she seemed to go to the microwave, and I'm a bit like, oh, is she going to get some popcorn? Like Wilton, you're going to sort of. But no, she replicated that thing, and
presumably it's some sort of nanotech or some sort of a biological tag or something that can't be removed. So,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's some sort of, the tracker is some sort of non-damaging isotope, like a radioactive.
Yeah,
It's like a radioactive
Right.
isotope.
And she's a scientist, so she probably has figured out how it works and how she could override it or disable it. So yeah. But it did feel like at that point, we as an audience we were meant to be kind of thinking, oh, is that it? Is she going to commit suicide? Is that that's how I sort of interpreted it.
I think
anyway,
it was.
but...
Yeah, I think she was ready to die in order to do that. And we discussed, didn't we, about we were discussing how she went from killing an ex-lover for the cause to killing herself because they can't shake the tail.
Yeah.
But I think you were saying it's more of a kind of culmination of events that she couldn't take it anymore.
I felt like I think she didn't want to kill Maddox. I think she felt like she had to, because she was committed to Commodore O's cause, but she really didn't want to do it. And then I think as a result of I think she's not. Well, now she's done that, she doesn't feel great about it. Like she's now she's really torn about her actions and what she's done, and it feels like now she's, maybe she's gonna sort of come back to the crew and pick a side already, Jurati. But I hope this isn't a TV show where we, everyone forgets that she has literally killed a man.
Yeah.
That is input. She did do that. But yeah, I enjoyed all of those scenes as well. I thought a lot of the sort of tension and kind of action came from the B and C stories, and then the A story was very much Picard having a chat on a lovely planet with his old friends,
and
some delicious pizza.
You were a bit put out by how many slices of pizza people got.
I was upset that Riker only seemed to be serving up one slice, and then he does say, "Oh, guests get two." Yeah. I was thinking, well, wait a minute, two isn't even enough.
I'm assuming he went back out and there was another pizza.
Better have bloody made another pizza.
It's like, I'd be like, he had these massive pizza oven and he cooked like two pizzas.
I'd be absolutely devastated. I'd be like, this. You've got this amazing pizza oven. You've gone on about your space basil. Got one flipping slice, tiny as well. You're gonna have to order in. Starving. Riker's massive. He clearly eats okay. He probably ate like 3 pizzas while he was cooking it.
Oh, this one's burnt as well.
Yeah. Oh no.
I did like in this episode when they're having their pizza dinner. They talk a bit about the planet, and there's a spaceport on the other side of the lake, and then there's that character. What's he called? Captain. What's he called? Captain Cullen or Captain some? I don't know. Remember who that was? But I felt like they mentioned him a couple of times, and I think that's a new character. But I thought, is this going to be a character that we maybe see at some point?
I was thinking, because I'm sure there's a line where the kid says he's even older than you are, Picard. So I guess he's and as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, is he a character? Is he someone from the original series? Is it Shatner? They brought back Shatner. Ridiculous.
That would be amazing.
Oh, wouldn't it?
Holy S.
I suppose because I didn't die under the bridge.
Well, I think actually Shatner's gone on record in a recent interview saying he wouldn't come back and play Kirk again. But would he play another character? Could you imagine? And it's actually Kirk with it's Shatner with a prosthetic or something on. Oh my god, that would be incredible, Gemma. You would love it.
Much. It would ruin it.
It'd be brilliant.
He's like, it's like, I woke up covered in rocks. I didn't know who I was on a planet. I had no idea who I was. I was covered in rocks. I was like, why am I covered in rocks? Why was I left here covered in rocks? I formed my own identity and I escaped that world. And now I'm not covered in rocks. I'm this guy. Woo, 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 woo. That would be so cool. Yeah, but I think maybe I'm wondering if Narek will go to Nepenthe, but not. He won't go to the Riker's house. He might go to the spaceport, perhaps. And is that? Do you think that could happen?
Does he know? He doesn't know he's going to Nepenthe, does he? He was just following them.
Oh,
yeah,
true.
He was, and Jurati got rid of the tracking device, presumably.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess we'll see in the next episode because he's got part of the way there.
He could extrapolate from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there was enough of that sort of isotope in Jurati's sick that he could still track them. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. It's a lovely thought, isn't it?
Yeah. I like that you actually saw it coming out. I think they put a lot of effort into that sick.
Horrible.
But that,
It's like, you have to see her be sick again. Oh, now she's foaming at the mouth. So I have this is a bit weird, but I have a real it's not like a phobia, but it's like I'm just horrified by toothpaste and people cleaning their teeth. I don't know why. It's something about the foaming at the mouth. Oh, I just hate it. If someone else is in the bathroom and they start cleaning their teeth, I am out of there.
Yeah, you are.
So when after Jurati had been sick twice and then she was foaming at the mouth, I was like, this. She is in real danger of me not having a crush on her anymore. Hope she realizes this. She's this close to the crush ending in me not being crushing on her anymore.
Put it in your letter.
I will put it in my letter. Dear Dr. Jurati, I am troubled
by your recent behaviour.
You did 2 sicks, and then you were really foaming at the mouth. And I just don't. This is like odd prose for a letter, but I write letters very casually.
Yeah, I haven't even introduced myself in this letter, but you know who I am.
You've had my letters before.
Yes. This is not my first rodeo / letter.
Please stop kissing Rios and being sick.
Thank you, bye. Signed, Will Turland. But yeah,
wow.
This episode felt. I say this every single time we do a podcast, but this was my favourite episode so far. I just loved it.
It was. Yeah, it was a big thing. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they know the planet that Soji and Daj were created on, at least.
Yeah. Once again, really, I mean, that has to be the only planet in the entire known universe that has those parameters.
But it doesn't have a name. It just has a number.
Yeah.
And old Captain Creepy, who seems to really know Troy Riker's kid well. That's what's going on there.
He's just a nice man. He's just a nice.
I don't know, man.
Can't people just be friends, Will? Jeez.
I don't know. I'm just a bit suspicious.
If it was a female, would you be suspicious in that way? No.
I guess I wouldn't. I guess I wouldn't.
You've got to take a long, hard look at yourself, mate.
I'm just picturing like a sort of a Jimmy Savile style character.
I'm thinking someone jolly and with a big white beard.
Jimmy Savile.
Santa?
Yeah, pretty much. Santa, but kind of weirdly dressed like a fisherman.
Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, fisherman. That would fit.
Like a Captain Birdseye sort of character.
Yeah,
but more weather-worn.
Weather-worn, yes, definitely, yeah.
With a holy.
Have you guys seen the old Father Christmas Raymond Briggs' Father Christmas movie from the 80s.
Yeah.
Because I think he goes fishing in that. So there we go.
If it's not, if it's not Shatner that plays that character whose name I can't remember, how about Brian Blessed?
Brian Blessed would be perfect. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Because Brian Blessed hasn't been in Star Trek yet, I don't think, and I feel like he should. I feel like he should be.
If there was one thing,
him and Patrick Stewart are friends.
Yes, that's right, and they were in
of course.
Kenneth Branagh's Henry
the
V together.
Yeah,
as well.
I think they went to Shakespeare school.
Yeah. If there was one thing that could improve the Picard show, it would be Brian Blessed. Yeah. If I had one criticism, I would say there isn't enough Brian Blessed in this series.
You could say that about many things.
It's my main criticism of every series that I watch, and it's rare that it's remediated.
That's why I have to eliminate it as a criticism. Otherwise, I'm criticising everything. I turn up to work. There's not enough Brian Blessed here. I go to the shops. There's not enough Brian Blessed here.
Then you turn on.
And you can't go through life criticising everything.
You turn on Flash Gordon, and you're like, actually, there is about the right amount of Brian Blessed here, so this is okay. Peppa Pig, yes, he's in that, yeah.
Not enough though, because he's only in about 4.
So you could, even though he's in it, you could still say not enough Brian Blessed in this. Do you know what, guys? We are 1 hour and 10 minutes into the recording, and I think we've talked about everything in the episode. And does anyone else have anything else that they need to say?
I do. After we covered Thad's name, I happened to Google Thad jazz singer and found out there is a Thaddeus Joseph Jones, who is an American jazz trumpeter, composer, and band leader who has been called one of the all-time greatest jazz trumpet soloists.
Okay.
He may have been a further influence for Riker's child's name.
Yeah, because of the whole trumpet thing. Mm-hmm. That does sound like, that is.
I mean, a trumpet is like a baby trombone, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that's that's what it's generally called, isn't it, by musicians?
Bring out the old baby trombone.
better than a rusty trombone, am I right?
Well,
no.
I don't know. Would that probably wouldn't work very well.
Well, it depends. Well, don't knock it till you tried it, Rick.
I don't know.
This is going.
I'm sorry for introducing that.
You have lowered the tone.
I feel like we stumbled onto Rick's erotic fiction website again.
It is. There is that has happened in it. I have to admit. It was very erotic.
It's hard to picture the words "a rusty trombone" in erotic fiction,
and it was very erotic.
Yeah,
there you go. Sort it out for you.
Just a further note: the fact she murdered a bunch of ex-Borg and Hugh has not in any way invalidated my crush on Narissa. So.
Is Narissa the
sexy naughty
sexy naughty Romulan?
Sexy naughty. Yes.
Yeah.
You guys are not fussed about a bit of murdering, are you?
Yeah, I guess all.
No, I'm really struggling to overlook the slightly incestuous tones with her and her brother.
I think that's an act. I don't think there is actually any incest. I think she's just doing that whole ooh. I'm sexy.
Maybe
power play thing.
Maybe she's so sexy. She's even sexy with her brother. That's how sexy she is.
I mean, I thought she very sexily holstered her disruptor. I was a bit like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
You'd like her to holster your disruptor, Rick?
Yes, I would. Because appropriately looking after dangerous weaponry is obviously a key concern, and she looks like she has had appropriate training in how to do that.
Definitely.
I don't know why you're all still
She does. She looks like she'd be very good with her hands. Because she threw that.
She
like,
did throw the throwing
spiky
blade.
thing.
It's nice, got a knife.
But she's never able to figure out that Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we know she's not very.
But also,
She's not patient. Yeah,
She's not patient, so
No.
that might be a barrier in your relationship with her. Rick. I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying that patience is a necessity when talking to Rick Everson. But I don't have a way to finish that sentence.
It helps, right?
Yeah.
I would say she has quite murdery tendencies. I would be in a lot of trouble if she didn't have a lot of patience with me.
Yeah, you would. I think she'd be really close to murdering you like the whole time.
Hey, maybe Rick's into that.
That could be incentive.
Yeah.
Well, as we've established, if you can get past the murdering stage, your relationship's set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's a sign of any good relationship, right? You get past that stage where you want to kill one another. Like, got past it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll be back to record a reaction to episode 8.
Indeed.
But yeah, thank you very much for listening, everyone, and we will be back for another episode in the future.
Indeed.
Yep.
We will.
Thank you, guys.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Do you realize how incredible this is?
It's tradition.
You ever noticed her bum? What? Her bum.
Oh no!
I will say
fewer things.
Okay.
Enough of this self-indulgence.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, our website is www.lowerdexradio.co.uk. You can reach us on the Twitters at 10Backward, 10 being the number and backward being the word backward. We're also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/10Backward podcast. You can also email us at crew@lowerdexradio.co.uk. On a personal, individual level, my Twitter is @WiltHerland. Rick Everson's Twitter is @TrekFanRick. And Rick Palmer's Twitter is @Mr. Imhotep.
Hi, thank you again for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you might consider supporting us. We now have a Patreon where people can pledge small amounts to fund our ongoing projects like keeping our website up to date, new audio equipment as we're going along, and potentially opportunities to expand our content. You can go look at this at patreon.com/lowerdexradio. If you don't feel you can donate but would still like to support us, we would love it if you could subscribe to us on however you get your podcasts, through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or we're on various third-party apps. And if you could leave us a review on any of those, that would be fantastic and we'd be very appreciative.
Thanks again for listening, and please tune in for more podcasts from the 10Backward crew.
Let's make sure that history never forgets the name.
10Backward?
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
10Backward.
10Backward.
No such thing on planet Rafi.